Good evening, everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July. I meant to go watch Young Washington with my boy. The problem is all the seats were taken up, all the good ones. I didn't get them days in advance, so I kind of got screwed. So maybe tomorrow night or sometime this week, I'll take my kid to go see Young Washington. Maybe Monday, because that's actually going to be a light day for me. So like he really wanted to see it too, right? But what we did go see, hence the title of this video, is the Masters of the Universe remake. Now, for those of you who are unaware, Masters of the Universe, He-Man, the cartoon from the 80s, I think it came out like in 82. There was a movie around like 87 or 88 or maybe 89 with Dolph Lundgren playing He-Man. And I got to watch that again now with my kid. So I recently started playing old He-Man cartoons on YouTube for my boy. And he liked them. I mean, I liked him as a kid. So, and he's a lot like me. So it kind of figures he would like some of the same things, right? So I told him, hey, there's a He-Man movie, a live action one. He's like, really? I want to see it. Okay. Now, in all fairness, I don't think it's done too well in the box office. Like, it's been around for like a couple weeks. I could tell by early this week that it was like, there's like maybe 1 or 2 showtimes a day. And then yesterday, I found out on Thursday night, I'm like, oh crap, like 9:40 in the morning. Let me see if we feel like getting up on Friday. And I had Friday off. They gave us the 3rd off, paid, thankfully. Got up in the morning and, we weren't quite getting up in a timely manner, so we didn't see it Friday. Only available at 9:40 at the theater here in town. So I have to go like 30, 40 minutes away just to go watch it at some other time. And I'm like, nope, not doing that. Because I don't know if it's going to be good, if I'm going to like it, if it's going to be just totally stupid, if it's going to be some woke bullcrap. So we went and saw it this morning, and we enjoyed it, honestly. Here's the thing. I can't remember the proto version of He-Man, but at some point, Adam, aka Prince Adam, aka before he becomes He-Man, he's at a comic shop early in the film, and there's a statue that is basically the proto version of I can't remember the name, but it's He-Man before He-Man came out. So they made some, like, I think Mattel made some, or maybe it was a different company that was hired before Mattel. I don't remember, but there was this toy that came out before He-Man did. It was a test run, and they did some. I think they did a comic book maybe or something. They were trying to create what would eventually become He-Man, and it was a little bit more, I think, adult oriented, despite being a cartoon. I think there were some elements of it that were maybe less for kids. And then He-Man came out, and it was for kids, including the PSAs and everything. If anyone's touching you, talk to your parents. If you can't talk, if it's your parent, talk to a minister or a rabbi, right? I remember that stuff. Okay. Just like the G.I. Joe PSAs of the 80s. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff going around back then. And I learned how to swim, how to tread water because of G.I. Joe, because of that kid falling off the cliff into the ocean. So, for real, I learned to tread water because of that cartoon. So, now you know, and knowing is half the battle, right? He-Man had its own version of that, okay? I think it was The Power is Yours, or something like that. I'd double check. It's been a while since I've watched the cartoons. Even though I recently played some for my son, I actually fell asleep while he was watching them. I woke up and he was still watching them. He didn't change the channel. So I'm glad. And I'm glad that he got acquainted with the characters. There are some cringe moments in the movie, though. And even my kid is going like this, like doing this, like hiding from the movie itself. Because it shows that he's growing up. He's becoming aware of how embarrassing certain things actually are. So Yeah, I better get a new car. Not gonna lie, my car is kind of falling apart. So yeah, the next couple years, I better have a new car. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's funny to see him react to this. So I never leave my kid alone. I didn't make him go to the bathroom with me. I ran away for like 60 seconds. I hauled ass to the bathroom to go take a piss because I drank too much soda. You know, I know TMI, right? Came back, bolted back over. He was still there, obviously. There weren't very many people in there. And that's kind of, ironically enough, why I felt it was kind of okay to, you know, leave him there for about 60 seconds because the bathroom was not far. You know, it really wasn't. And I was bolting. And he's like, yeah, you weren't gone that long at all, right? So I got there and he's like all like he's all smiling watching the movie. I could have just stood there and just watched him smile for a while. It was just nice to see him enjoying it. Okay. Right. I'm very protective of my son, by the way. Like, if it wasn't the town that I live in and it wasn't like a very small group of people in there and I get as like a husband and wife sitting a few seats away, that's like it. Um, yeah, like, and if I wasn't hauling ass, you know, um, and also it was a scene where I knew that like by the time I got back, the same scene would be happening. I could just kind of tell, right? So anyway, excuses, right? My kid was fine. He's good. And um, it's funny. I mean, there's a lot of funny things about this movie. Okay. And I mean, you'll find this out early on, so I'm not going to give too many spoilers, but I will say that he ends up as a kid, probably about roughly 10 years old, maybe between 8 and 10 years old. He's sent to Earth by, um, I want to call it the sorceress. Is that her name? I think that's her name. Um, the good one, Tila's actual mom, right? Which isn't mentioned in the movie, by the way. You have to find out through other cartoons that Tila's mom is, what did I just call her? The sorceress, right? I think that's her name. Um, and actually, I think that Tila might be part of her original name before she became the sorceress, based on the cartoon episode that my son was watching the other day. So I think that's what I woke up to, was that. Anyway, yeah, it's unrealistic that Man-at-Arms, who's played by Idris Elba, who does a good job, by the way, okay? It's obviously kind of like, okay, that's not really her dad because she's very, very white and he's obviously very black. So, I mean, one thing that didn't make me want to see the movie right away was the race swapping. They didn't do a lot of it, okay? But in the source material, they're obviously all white, okay? Ram Man is played by an Asian guy, okay? He doesn't have a whole lot of showtime, but you got your Asian in there, you got your black dude in there, you had a couple black kids in Eternia training under Man-at-Arms alongside Prince Adam early in the film, okay? But at some point, he gets sent to Earth to his mother's home because if you watch the original cartoon, you find out that his mother was an astronaut from Earth. They don't mention the astronaut part. They just mention that you send him to my home, right? Where he spends the next 15 years. So all this is early in the film. At some point, he ends up getting back to Eternia early in the film. And then the rest of the film happens. And you get to watch him kind of evolve into becoming He-Man. Now, there's a lot of humor. Okay. Spoilers on this one. The names of the characters as they exist in the source material, well, they don't actually, in the movie, they don't actually go under those names. Those are names that like little kid Prince Adam gave to these people that he saw when he was a kid. and he would draw pictures of them to remember them as he's living on Earth, trying to figure out how to get back to Eternia, basically. Okay, so names like Ram Man, he didn't like that too much, but he kind of went with it later on. Fisto, because he fists people. Okay, that's one of the jokes. Okay. If you're an adult, you know exactly what that means. And you know why the character doesn't like being called that. But later on, he kind of accepts the name, you know. I don't want to say this, but spoilers. Okay. He-Man isn't actually called He-Man until like the end of the film. Okay. There's a lot of like ironic kind of humor in this, and I don't want to give away too much, but I will say that I can see why it probably is not a box office success. In the credits, they do kind of give the possibility of a sequel with She-Ra. Okay. Because for those of you who might remember from the source material, She-Ra was his twin sister. Skeletor's mentor was Hordak. Hordak kidnapped Adora, the twin sister, took her to the other dimension, and Skeletor was stuck behind, and basically became Skeletor, right? And then Adam became He-Man, and Adora became a general in Hordak's army. And yeah, I know too much of this stuff, but they definitely paid tribute to the soundtracks, like the She-Ra theme, the He-Man theme. Battle Cat exists, and he is a talking cat, and it's actually kind of cool. I kind of like that. Cringer actually is his name, and that's also his name pretty much throughout the movie when he shows up. So yeah, you have, oh, and the sorceress is played by Morena Baccarin, I pronounce her last name. Can't go wrong with that. Okay. I like her in whatever she does, whatever I've seen in Deadpool, in Gotham, those in particular. She's great, whatever she does. She's lovely. Okay. But to see her as a sorceress was kind of cool, actually. And what's also nice is that there wasn't too much like ironic humor on her part. There was a lot more humor in something like this, because if it really is aimed not at children, it's aimed at people that were kids back when the cartoon came out in the 80s. So that husband and wife couple, they looked older than me. So they're probably at least like 5, maybe even 10 years older than I am. And I was a baby when that cartoon came out. So, I mean, just do the math there, right? It's just funny. There's a lot of moments to laugh at. So I actually don't regret seeing it. I'm glad that my son really enjoyed it. And he's not a lifelong, He-Man 80s cartoon fanboy. He just came across He-Man a couple days ago, and I decided, okay, yeah, we'll go see the movie. That was it, like Thursday. Yeah, I mean, like Thursday was like, maybe it was Wednesday. No, it was Thursday, wasn't it? Anyway, it was just a couple days ago, and he just finally learned about He-Man, and so he enjoyed the movie. Oh, Dolph Lundgren makes a cameo in this. What's really ironic about that is not just, I mean, it's paying tribute. He did something. I think he did this or something. I can't remember. Maybe that was in the original film. I got to double check. I have to watch that with my kid, and then it'll all make sense. But he does give a little bit of pep talk, but he's just some gym guy. But to be honest, I mean, racially speaking, And given his build, he would have made a pretty good Man-at-Arms. That's the irony, is that if we weren't into all the race swapping and trying to like check all of our boxes of every race and whatever else, just so we make sure we don't offend people because we make a movie of something from the 80s, but today, and now we've got to like put everything else that's in today's movies into this 80s tribute, right? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I'm kind of over all that, but Idris Elba did a good job. He's a great actor. To be honest, even though it's obvious that he's not Tila's dad because he's black and she's white, like she's super white and he's pretty black. Okay, like it's pretty obvious. Okay, their father-daughter chemistry actually worked pretty well. It was interesting. Like it kind of worked despite that. Like it's obvious that he adopted her when she was a kid, which in the source material, White Man-at-Arms did adopt Tila from the sorceress. I can't remember who her real dad is, but obviously wasn't, Idris Elba. But in any case, yeah. So definitely something I enjoyed. I kind of wish it was more successful, but I can see why it wasn't, and I can see why they may not ever make a sequel to it. So just because it's one of those things where they put too much humor into it. So we'll segue to Avengers: Age of Ultron. Okay, in Avengers: Age of Ultron, Joss Whedon wrote that one, and the problem, unlike with the previous movies, that I'm pretty sure he did not write at all. I gotta double check that, but I'm pretty sure he didn't write any of the previous Avengers stuff. There was too much Joss Whedon humor in Avengers: Age of Ultron. Like it was too much humor that conflicted with pre-established characters that were honestly a little more serious in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that you can't have levity, you can't have, laughter. You totally can, you totally should. These characters should have that. But it was over the top. It felt like to me. There's too much of his quirkiness versus what the characters' personalities were actually like. That's what didn't work for me about Age of Ultron. Okay. As a fan of the comics and as a fan of the movies, it didn't work that way. It was okay. I didn't like it that much though because of that. So, like everything before and after to me was pretty much better. Well, until Avengers Endgame. After that, most of the MCU kind of sucked. I'm sorry to say. They took a crap on it. They went woke and it went broke. And then they blamed it on superhero fatigue. In this case, what you have is an 80s intellectual property that is still time honored. I mean, they did do a remake back in 2002. Actually, they did a remake back in 1990-ish, 89, 90. I kind of forgot about this until I looked into it. There was a He-Man cartoon where it's almost like he's holding a lightsaber instead of the sword that he had, and he's not quite as big and beefy, and it just didn't work. It went for like, a season or half a season or something, and it was gone. I totally memory hold that until maybe about a year or so ago. So yeah, it just didn't fit the fan base at the time. It's like the last season of G.I. Joe. It was made to sell toys, and it wasn't made by Sunbow. I think it was a Sunbow. Whoever was doing the original G.I. Joe seasons and Transformers, it wasn't done by them anymore. And they changed the theme and they changed the animation, and it just didn't work with the old fans. So that's what happened with that second. It was supposed to be a continuation, but it was almost like a weird soft reboot, and no one really liked it. So the one in 2002 actually wasn't bad. I just didn't like the Cartoon Network what do you call it? Like commercials for it. Because it's like, yeah, Skeletor's coming and he doesn't stand a chance. Like, really? Like, he doesn't stand a chance? Well, then what's the problem? Right? I mean, shouldn't he get beaten easily by anybody? It's like, he doesn't stand a chance. It's like, okay. I never finished watching that, but I did enjoy it. What I did see, I enjoyed. And the animation was good. The more recent remakes, I have no intention of ever seeing. I don't like the fact they killed Prince Adam, or the fact that Tila was kind of sort of becoming a lesbian. None of that worked for me. Okay. And I refuse to ever watch that. Okay. But this movie, this was entertaining. But there was still a lot of that, a lot of humor. It kind of made fun of the source material. And then also kind of like, I mean, it's like Fisto finally accepting the name, Ram Man accepting his name, the guy with the extending neck, I can't remember, Mechaneck. That wasn't his actual name until Prince Adam started calling him that. I'm not going to give away everything. If you're a fan of He-Man, give it a chance. It's not woke, broke crap. Like when Prince Adam is working in HR on Earth during the small portion of the film where he's actually on Earth. Yeah, it's like Adam, whatever his last name was that he was using, and it says he, him. That's the only thing. I mean, I saw that in the trailer. I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like the race swapping. I don't like the he, him stuff. I don't like all the woke crap. But I gave it a chance. There was like nothing gay in the film. Okay, just to throw that out there. No gay trans stuff, nothing like that. It was enjoyable. I mean, the jokes, like you kind of got to be an adult to understand most of it. Okay, and it makes more sense. It's much funnier if you remember having the toys as a kid, watching the original cartoon and seeing some of these funny names. And there's characters that I think was a Triclops. They race swapped him. You only see like the one eye in his headband thing. Like you only see one. Like you don't see like the whole spinny thing. And that actually doesn't happen. Now, spoilers, sorry. Not that he's the most important character anyway, but there's other characters that didn't show up either. You do want to stay and watch. I didn't watch the end of the credits, but there were some like post-credit kind of mid-credit scenes that you want to stick around for. So there's like 2 of them that I saw. So definitely something, just FYI. And yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I actually really, I'm glad that I went with my kid. That there's no like weird, stupid woke crap, really. I mean, other than the race swapping and the whole he, him name tag on his office desk, because he was working on Earth, where everything's kind of screwed up right now. It really wasn't, there wasn't that much of any of that crap. Now, is Adam kind of limp-wristed in some ways? Yeah, as a character, he kind of is. In certain previous variations of the character, that's also kind of the case. Maybe not in the 80s cartoon. He was just Prince Adam and he would disappear and become He-Man. Okay. But like in the 2002 cartoon, he was like kind of a teenager pretty much. He was kind of like, like he just wasn't He-Man. He was Adam, Prince Adam. But in this one, he's Adam, technically the Prince of Eternia, and no one really, barely anybody remembered who he was because he was gone for 15 years on Earth. Okay. Again, you find out that early in the film. Okay. So, like, yeah. Like, I would say probably within the first 30 minutes, like he's a kid on Eternia, he gets sent to Earth, then he pretty much comes back from Earth by the end of that half-hour period, roughly. Maybe 35 minutes. something like that. Okay. And the movie goes for like 2 hours. So just most of it's going to be on Eternia, so, to be honest though, Adam, even on Earth, he looked pretty ripped in his shirt. It's funny because he's wearing this kind of like pinkish, purplish shirt like Prince Adam wears in the cartoon, but it's like Earth style, collar shirt. So that was kind of funny. There's little things like that they would throw in. It's kind of like in the Mario movie that came out a couple years ago. They paid a lot of tribute to like the original cartoon, all the original video games. You see stuff in the background of like Donkey Kong. You see like, like all these different video games that Mario made appearances in before his own first game, or even, the original Mario Brothers. You see all this stuff that references stuff, like all these games and cartoons, and maybe even the original live action movie. I have to double check that. That covered a lot of ground while also like building a whole new thing. So in a similar sense, they had some of that going on. It wasn't as good as Mario overall, but it was still enjoyable. So even as He-Man, I would say that Adam, my critique of his character is he's not as strong of a character as he was in the cartoons and the original live action. He's still the same personality, but now he's all ripped. But technically he's already kind of ripped anyway. It's weird because the scene where he first becomes He-Man, spoilers, it's like they take the actor, they rip his shirt off. It's like basically the Eye of the Power moment. It just rips off his clothes. And you see like a less muscly guy become muscly. Except that the actor playing He-Man, the actor playing Adam, when Adam is dressed up as Adam, he's still buff. So it's like they had to use someone else's body to make him look less buffed, and then like use his actual body, but in the He-Man armor. It's kind of funny. Okay. What else did I want to say? I enjoyed Skeletor. I enjoyed Evil-Lyn. You can tell she's a bit of a submissive in probably the BDSM kind of way with Skeletor, and that he thinks more of his manhood than she probably thinks, even though she totally is all about him. It's funny. Check it out. You'll see pay attention. You'll see what I'm talking about. What else? But yeah, the articulation of Skeletor's face was done really well. The voice acting was good. He wasn't the entire time. It was more like he had a more normal adult voice, but he still had the cackling laugh at the same time. He was still an over-the-top character. He was obviously a villain, and had no compunction about being who and what he is. And when you see the scene I'm talking about, it's kind of funny. Okay. So yeah, give it a chance. Actually give it a chance. I wish I had seen it like a week earlier, or maybe 2 weeks ago, whenever it came out. I'm kind of wishing I saw it then and could be giving this video critique at that time, and maybe people might see it and be like, oh, actually, I'll give it a chance. So when it's on streaming, watch it. If you like He-Man, if you like that old 80s stuff, and also if you want to laugh, because they're going to make fun of that same source material, but it's going to work. Okay? The way they do it, it works. Okay? I guess I would kind of give it a B+. I can't give it like the A, as in like this should be the most top movie possible. No, I'm not going to say that. But it's better than a B movie, in my opinion, if you're a fan of that type of genre, which I am. So anyway, that's enough for now. Go watch it on streaming. If you can still see it in the theaters, check it out then. Thanks for watching.